All right, here we go, Algebra 1. We are going to continue with our elimination method. So I want to first of all review what we had talked about in the 3.3D notes. Now remember, there are three things that we need to have. We need to have the same number in front of the same variable with different signs, one positive and one negative. So let's look at this here. I have a 4x and an x, not the same number. This is a 4 and this is a 1. Look at your y's. Same number. This is a 1, this is a 1, in front of the same variable, both in front of the y, and they have different signs. So that means I can add these columns together. Remember, they have to be in this form here. They have to be in that standard form, ax plus by equals c, before we do any of this stuff. Okay, it's not the case for the substitution method, but elimination method, we gotta have it in that form first. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If it's not in that form, like you'll see in example 5, we have to do something first. So if we add these columns together, okay, now, well, I'll get into that when we do this later on today. So 4x plus x is 5x. Y minus y is 0, so there are 0 y. So we don't write 0 y, we just don't write y. And then 2 plus 3 is 5. Last thing we need to do to get x by itself is divide, because these are being multiplied, so we do the opposite and divide. And I have x equals 1. Now I need to plug this in and figure out what y is equal to, because remember, our answer has to be a point. Right now all I have is the x coordinate. I need the y coordinate as well. So I'm going to take this top equation. If you want to use the bottom equation, go ahead. You'll find out you get the same thing. And I'm going to plug in 1 for x, because I know that x is 1. I just solved for it there in that other part of the problem right here. Plus y, write the rest of the equation, equals 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus y equals 2. And the last thing that I have to do is move the 4 over. And I'm going to do that by subtracting. This is a positive 4, so I need to do the opposite and subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. Those are gone. Y equals 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So there are my two coordinates. Last thing I need to do is write them as a point, and I am finished. If you want to double check your work, what we do is we take the equation that we did not use, x minus y equals 3, plug in x and y and see if it works. So x is 1 minus y was negative 2, and I want to know, is that equal to 3? Well, a double negative here makes that a plus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, equals 3, so it checks out. We know we did it correct. You don't have to do that last step there, but I'm just saying that's how you check your work. Alright, so I pulled out the three most important parts of the notes right here. This is what you need. Same number in front of the same variable with different signs. This is what we're going to be doing now. We have to work with one equation to get there. So let's just jump into these examples. So let's look here. We're looking, remember, same number in front of the same variable with different signs. You can use either equation in most cases. In some cases, one variable will be easier than the other, but you can use any variable you want to. So if I wanted to eliminate the x's, I need to have the same number. So up here, I need to have the same number with a different sign. So I would need to have a negative 7. So one option, you're always going to have multiple options in these problems, okay? So there's no like, this is how you have to start this. Like, that's not the case here, okay? You can start it one way or maybe two ways, or in this case, you could start it 3 different ways, okay? And it's not like one is any better or easier than the other. It's just they're different, okay? So you could take your pick. So I could multiply this top equation by negative 7, and that will give me a positive 7x here and a negative 7x here. Okay, the other thing I notice is that both of the y's have a negative 1. So they have the same number in front of the same variable, but they have the same sign, and they need to be different signs. So I could multiply the top equation by negative 1, or I can multiply the bottom equation by negative 1. So those are the three things you can do. Multiply the top equation by negative 7, multiply the top equation by negative 1, or you can multiply the bottom equation by negative 1. It does not matter what you do. Take your pick. I am going to multiply this top equation by negative 1. No real reason why I chose that. It's just the one that I picked, okay? So you take your pick too. Distribute it through. Everything has to get multiplied by -1. Not just the y that we're going to cancel, but everything. So -1 times x is -x. -1 times -y is a positive or a plus y. And -1 times 3 is -3. I'm not changing the bottom equation at all, so all I'm doing is just recopying that. Okay, and also, once you do that first step, you have to make sure that one of your variables will cancel. Okay, if one of them does not cancel, you're not done. You didn't do something correctly. You either need to go back and fix it, or you need to do something else. But here I can see that my y's will cancel. Y minus y is 0. They're gone. Add your other columns. -x plus 7x is 6x equals -3 minus 3 is -6. Divide both sides by 6, and we get x equals -1. All right, so x is equal to -1. Now, when we solve for a y, when we solve for the other variable, not necessarily y, but the other variable, I want to strongly encourage you to use one of the original equations. Because if you made a mistake in this step right here, multiplying one of those equations, your answers will be wrong. But if you go back to the original, a lot of times you will be able to recognize the mistake and you'll be able to fix it. So I am going back to the original. I'm going to use the top equation. I'm going to plug in my -1 for x and solve this problem. So I know x is -1. I just solved it right here. Now we need to solve for y. So move the 1 over, so add 1. -1 plus 1 is 0, so they're gone. When you bring the y down, don't just say y equals 4, okay? Because you forgot your negative sign. Don't forget about that. We need to have the negative sign with it. And then to get y by itself, we have to divide by -1, or multiply by -1, same thing. We end up with y equals to -4. So, final answer, x is -1, y is -4. And again, like I said, you could take those, plug them into that other equation for x and y, and just verify that you have it correct, okay? And that's one way that you can check your answers on these. All right, let's keep going here. Again, we need to have the same number in front of the same variable with different signs. So if we look at this, again, we have 3 options. I can multiply this bottom equation by 7. That will give me a positive 7x here and a negative 7x here. I could also, if we recognize that these are both 2's, I can multiply one equation by a -1. So that's what I'll do here. I will multiply this bottom equation by -1. But if you wanted to try something different just to verify that you will get the same answer, you can multiply the top equation by -1, or you can multiply the bottom equation by 7. So if somebody wants to try that on your own and show that we can still get the same answer, you can go ahead and do that. So let's rewrite the top equation because that's not changing at all. 7x plus 2y equals -19. The bottom equation will change because I'm multiplying by a -1. -1 times -x now becomes a positive x. -1 times 2y is a -2y. And -1 times 21 is -21. All right, so here's my new system, which is equal to the old system, but it just looks a little different. Again, I want to verify that one of my variables will cancel. And again, 2y minus 2y. The y's will cancel out here. So let's add the other columns. 7x plus x, remember that's a 1x, so 7x plus 1x is 8x. -19 minus 21 gives me a -40. And again, if you're not good, if you struggle with adding or subtracting integers, just break out your calculator, just do a -19 minus 21, and it will give you a -40. The last step, we need to divide by 8 because we need to get x by itself, and that is being multiplied, so we will do the opposite and divide. So I'm left with x equals -5. x is equal to negative 5. Now, I want to come back to one of my originals. It does not matter which one. Take your pick. I'm going to use the top one, 7x plus 2y equals negative 19. And what I'm going to do now, again, I need to know the y value. I have the x, but this needs to be a point, so I also need the y value. So I'm going to replace the x with what I know about x. I know now that x is negative 5 because I just solved for it right here. So let's keep going here. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. Plus, rewrite the rest of the equation. Now we need to move the 35 over. So it's a negative 35. So I need to do the opposite, and I will add 35. So plus 35 plus 35. Okay, so the left-hand side, we have our negative 35 plus 35, which cancels. They're gone. Bring down the 2y. And the right-hand side, negative 19 plus 35 gives you 16, which again, if you wanted to use your calculator, plug in negative 19 plus 35, and you get 16. The last step, divide by 2, and I know that y is equal to 8. But again, I'm not stopping there because my final answer has to be written as a point. So negative 5, 8 is my final answer. And again, I make all of these problems come out to be nice numbers. I believe you might see like 1 or 2 in homework that give you decimals, like 1/2 or something. But on your test and quizzes, these will all come out to be whole numbers, okay? I don't want to give you challenging problems. I want to just make sure that you understand the concept. All right, next one. All right, so ask yourself these questions. If I wanted to cancel out the x, what number has to be here? If there's a positive 3 here, what has to be here? A negative 3, right. If I wanted to cancel out the y's, this is a negative 6. What would this have to be? A positive 6, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bottom equation and I will multiply by 3 because that way I'll have 3x and negative 3x. So rewrite the top equation. That's not changing. 3x minus 6y equals 9. Distribute this 3 through. 3 times negative x is 3 times negative x is negative 3x. 3 times 2y is plus 6y. Uh-oh, should recognize something there. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. What happens when I add my columns? 3 minus 3 is 0. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0, so my whole left-hand side is 0. And so I know it's either IMS or no solution, and that all depends on the right-hand side. 9 minus 9 is 0. So since this is a true statement, that means my final answer is IMS, infinitely many solutions, which basically just means that if we were to graph these, you would see that they are the exact same line and they overlap each other, so you really wouldn't even see 2 lines, you would only see 1 line. All right, wanted to throw one of those in there, so let's keep going here. Next, sometimes you will only have one option to work with. And what I mean is, let's look at these y's. Can I multiply 7 by an integer? I can multiply by a fraction, but we don't want to work with fractions. But if I multiply 7 by an integer, can I get to 8? No. If I multiply 8 by an integer, meaning like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, can I get to 8, or can I get to 7? And you can see that no, I'm not going to be able to do that. So my only option here is, if this is a 2x, I want this to be a negative 2x, so that they'll cancel. Okay, so what I need to do here is I need to take this top equation and multiply by negative 2, and that will help the x's to cancel. So let's distribute. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14y. And negative 2 times 0, don't make the mistake of writing negative 2. We're multiplying. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. I'm not changing the bottom equation at all, so let's just recopy that. There's my new system. And again, before I add any columns, make sure that something will cancel. Negative 2x plus 2x is 0. That cancels. Negative 14y minus 8y is negative 22y. And 0 plus 22 is 22. Excuse me. Last step. I need to get rid of this 22. But it's a negative, but that doesn't mean I'm adding it. How is it related to y? It's being multiplied. So I do the opposite, and I divide. Y equals negative 1. All right, now I need to know what x is. So let's use the top equation. You can use the bottom one if you want to. It does not matter. But I see a 0 here, and anytime I see a 0, I want to use that equation. It makes the math easier. Plus, these numbers are just smaller. So if you can use smaller numbers, you want to do that too. All right, so x plus 7 times y equals 0. Well, what is y equal to? Negative 1. I just solved for it down here. So rewrite x 7 times negative 1 is negative 7 equals 0. And I have one step left here. I will add 7 to both sides. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. Those are gone. X equals 0 plus 7 is 7. So now I have my x and my y coordinate. Put it in a point for the final answer. 7, negative 1. I tried to fix that parenthesis and ended up making it look worse. So let me try again. I want to make sure it looks like a point. There we go. Parenthesis 7, negative 1, parenthesis. Final answer. Okay, last one. And again, this one looks very similar to the way that we did our substitution method, where we took this and we substituted it in here for y and blah, 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 blah. We did all that work. But the directions here say that we must use elimination method. So before I can do anything with this problem, I need to make sure it's in that standard form ax plus by equals c. The top equation is good, okay? 12x plus 4y equals 8. That top equation is good. But the bottom equation has to have the 3x shifted over to this left-hand side. So cross those out there. So I'm left with 3x plus y equals 8. Okay, here's my new system. So look at your equation and decide what is the best variable to eliminate. And maybe you recognize it here that it doesn't matter which one, because in both cases we need to multiply by a negative 4, which tells us something about this equation in this system. So top equation is not changing. But the bottom equation, negative 4 times 3x is a negative 12x. Negative 4 times y is negative 4y. And negative 4 times 8 is negative 32. So what do we recognize? 12 minus 12 is 0. 4 minus 4 is 0. So the left-hand side is 0. While my right-hand side, well, what do we have on the right-hand side? 8 minus 32. Okay, 8 minus 32 gives you negative 24. Is this true or false? False. So since it's false, that means the answer is no solution. Okay, which we can just abbreviate NS, that's fine. No solution. Okay, so again, like I had said before, today's notes, you have to work with one equation to multiply by a number and make sure that you get those three things. Same number in front of the same variable with different signs. Okay, keep practicing these problems. We have a couple days of practice for this topic, but keep practicing them. That's the only way you're going to get better at this, is just practice and practice and practice, okay? Like always, if you have any questions, send me an email or private comment or ask in class, and just let me know, and I will do my best to answer them.